clinical laboratory is an essential component of health institution. Its main task is to provide accurate and reliable information to medical doctors for the diagnosis, prognosis, treatment, and management of diseases. The clinical laboratory is the place where specimens, blood, other body fluids collected from individuals are processed, analyzed, preserved, and properly disposed. Clinical laboratories vary according to size, function, and the complexity of the test performed. A medical technologist, clinical laboratory scientist, plays a very significant role in the performing of laboratory testing and ensuring the reliability of the test results.
Clinical laboratory according to function.
Are you competing with me?
Are you threatened?
Bring it on!
My laboratory is a clinical pathology, is a clinical laboratory that focuses on the areas of clinical chemistry, immunohematology, blood banking, medical microbiology, immunology and serology, hematology, parasitology, clinical microscopy, toxicology, therapeutics, drugs and monitorings, and endocrinology, and among others. It is also concerned with the diagnosis and treatment of diseases performed through laboratory testing of blood and other body fluids. How about yours?
My laboratory is anatomic pathology. It is a clinical laboratory that focuses on the areas of histopathology, immunohistopathology, cytology, autopsy, and forensic pathology, among others. It is concerned with the diagnostic of disease through microscopic examinations of tissues and organs.
Listen, there's more. So according to institutional characteristic, my laboratory is an institution-based. It is a clinical laboratory that operates within the premises or part of an institution such as hospital, school, medical clinic, medical facility for overseas workers and seafarers, birthing home, psychiatric facility, drug rehabilitation center, and others. Hospital-based clinical laboratories are the most common example of based laboratories. How about yours again?
My laboratory is more than that. It is a freestanding and it's also not part of an established institution.
Duh! Let's see who can give a good promotional video about the clinical laboratory.
Let's watch that.
Bagong Hospital ng Maynila is a government-owned clinical laboratory. They are operated and maintained partially or wholly by the national government, local government unit, or any other political unit or any department, division, board, and agency. They performed a series of service capability that may enter in primary category, secondary category, and tertiary category. They also performed complete blood count, routine hematology, hematocrit, white blood cell count, differential count, and qualitative platelet determination. They also performed routine urinalysis, routine fecalysis, gram staining, blood typing, which is under in primary category. Other than that, they also perform routine clinical chemistry, quantitative platelet determination, cross-matching, gram staining, and KOH, which is under in secondary category. There's more, they also perform special chemistry, special hematology including coagulation procedures, immunology, microbiology, culture and sensitivity, and histopathology, which is under in tertiary category. This hospital states that in their life is stifled by discomfort, we came to their rescue. We peel off the layers of physical restriction through a natural approach to healthcare and healthy lifestyle modification. This is Bagong Hospital ng Maynila.
Now, it's your turn. Let's see what you've got.
St. Luke's Medical Center is a privately owned clinical laboratory that is established and operated by an individual, corporation, institution, association, or organization. St. Luke's Medical Center is a world-class medical care, outstanding physicians and staff, and cutting-edge technologies. Because not all wounds are visible, we are dedicated to healing the unseen. We do that by helping our patients overcome mental health changes. We are committed to being confidential, sympathetic, approachable in our communications and treatment.
National Reference Laboratory is required to implement quality assurance, and it is a laboratory in a government which has been designated by the Department of Health to provide special diagnostic functions and services for certain diseases. So, these are the functions of the National Reference Laboratory. It includes referral services, provision of confirmatory testing, assistance of research activities, implementation of external quality assurance program of the government, resolution of conflicts regarding test results of different laboratories, and training of medical technologies on certain specialized procedures that require standardization.
Greetings to all of you. I am Farhana M. Jabo. RA 4688 is an act regulating the operation and maintenance of clinical laboratories and requiring the registration of the same with the Department of Health, providing penalty for the violation thereof and for the other purposes. There are 8 sections that we enacted under this law. Section 1. Government hospital laboratories doing minimum laboratory examination shall be exempted. Section 2. No renewal shall granted unless laboratory is under the supervision of physician. Section 3. The Secretary of Health through the Bureau of Research and Laboratories shall be charged with the responsibility of strictly enforcing the provisions of this Act and shall be authorized to issue such rules and regulations as may be necessary to carry out this provision. In Section 4, any person, firm, or corporation who violates any rules and regulations issued thereunder by the Secretary of Health shall be punished with imprisonment for not less than 1 month but more than 1 year, or by a fine of not less than 1,000 pesos or more than 5,000 pesos, or both such fine and imprisonment at the discretion of the court. Section 5. If any section or part of this Act shall be adjudged by any court of competent jurisdiction to be invalid, the judgment shall not affect, impair, or invalidate the remainder thereof. Section 6. The sum of 50,000 pesos or so much thereof as may be necessary is hereby authorized to be appropriated out of any funds in the National Treasury not otherwise appropriated to carry into effect of provisions of this Act. In Section 7, all acts or parts of acts which are inconsistent with the provision of this Act are hereby repealed. The last section, this Act shall take effect on its approval.
Open the door, please, Veronica. Open the door, Veronica. Can we not fight anymore, please? Can we not fight anymore? Veronica, sure you're scared. I've been there. I can set you free. Veronica, don't make me come in there. I'm gonna count to 3.
Purpose. These rules and regulations are promulgated to protect and promote the health of the people by ensuring availability of clinical laboratories that are properly managed with adequate resources, with effective and efficient performance through compliance with quality and standards. So, mapriso ka. Kaya pa kay lisensya, gitiktok pa gyud nimo. Adto na dito ka, pa-picture na dito. Mag-photograph ka dito sa imo.
Scope. This regulation shall apply to all entities performing the activities and function of clinical laboratories, which shall include the examination and analysis of any of all samples in human and other related tissues, fluids, secretion, radioactive and other materials from the human body for determination of the existence of pathologic organism, pathologic process, or condition in a person from whom such samples are obtained. This regulation does not include government laboratories doing laboratory examination limited to acid-fast bacilli microscopy, malaria screening, and cervical cancer screening, provided their services are declared as extension of a licensed government clinical laboratory.
An approved permit to construct and design layout of a clinical laboratory should be secured for the BHFS prior to submission of an application for a petition to operate. No clinical laboratory should be constructed unless plans have been approved and construction permit issued by the BHFS. A clinical laboratory shall operate with a valid license issued by the BHFS or the CHD based on a compliance with the minimum licensing requirements. The clinical laboratory shall be organized and managed to provide effective and efficient laboratory services. The clinical laboratory should be provide adequate and appropriate safety practices for its personnel and clientele. In order to apply a permit to construct, these are the documents that are required. Letter of application to the Director of BHFS, 4 sets of site development plans and floor plans approved by an architect and or engineer, DTI or the SEC registration for private clinical laboratory, a duly notarized application form, petition to establish, operate, and maintain a clinical laboratory shall be signed by the owner or his duly authorized representative at the Bureau of Health Facility and Services. A non-refundable license fee shall be charged for application for a permit to construct and for license to operate a government and private clinical laboratories. A non-refundable fee shall be charged for application for renewal of license to operate. All fees shall be paid to the cashier of the BHFS or the CHT. All fees shall follow the current prescribed schedule of fees of the DOH. A penalty of 1,000 pesos for late renewal shall be charged in addition to the renewal fee for all categories if the application is filed during the next 2 months after expiry date. An application received more than 2 months after expiry date shall be fined 100 pesos for each month thereafter in addition to the 1,000 penalty. All clinical laboratories shall be inspected and monitored regularly. The HFSRB or the CHD director or his or her authorized representative shall inspect and monitor clinical laboratories through visits to the laboratory at any reasonable time. An inspection tool which prescribes the standards, criteria, and technical requirements for the issuance of LTO shall be utilized. All clinical laboratories should be ensured that all laboratory records, premises, and facilities are made available to the HFSRB or the CHD director or his or her authorized representative in order to determine compliance with the provision of this regulation. A notice of violation for non-compliant clinical laboratories shall be issued immediately after monitoring the clinical laboratory. The license shall be issued by the director of the CHD or his authorized representative if the application is found to be meritorious. The license is granted upon compliance with the licensing requirements. The license is non-transferable.
The owner or authorized representative of any clinical laboratories desiring to transfer a licensed clinical laboratories to another location shall inform the CHD in writing of at least 15 days before actual transfer. The laboratory in its new location shall be subject to re-inspection and shall comply with the licensing requirements. An extension laboratory shall have a separate license. Any change affecting the substantial condition of the license to operate a laboratory shall be reported within 15 days in writing by the persons concerned to the BHFS or CHD for notation and approval. Failure to do so will cause the revocation of the license of the clinical laboratories. The clinical laboratory license must be placed in conspicuous location area within the laboratory.
Antas Brizame found guilty for performing laboratory examinations without proper license and violating the Republic Act 4688 or the rules and regulations governing the establishment, operations, and maintenance of clinical laboratories in the Philippines. The following acts committed by Brizame and Test are the following: operation of a clinical laboratory without a certified pathologist and or without a registered medical technologist. Change of ownership, location, head of a laboratory or personnel without informing the BHFS and or the CHD. Refusal to allow inspection of the clinical laboratory by the persons authorized by the BHFS during reasonable hours. Gross negligence. Any act or omission detrimental to the public. Hereby, Antas Brizame subject to imprisonment for not less than 1 month but not more than 1 year. Section 9. Investigation of charges or complaints. The BHFS or CHD or his duly authorized representatives shall investigate the complaint and verify if the laboratory concerned or any of its personnel is guilty of the charges. If upon investigation, any person is found violating the provision of RA 4688 or any of these rules and regulations, the BHFS or CHD or his duly authorized representatives shall suspend, cancel, or revoke for a determined period of time the license, as well as the authority of the offending persons, without prejudice to taking the case to judicial authority for criminal action. Any person who operates a clinical laboratory without the proper license from the Department of Health shall upon conviction be subject to imprisonment for not less than 1 month but not more than 1 year, or a fine of not less than 1,000 and not more than 5,000, or both at the discretion of the court, provided, however, that if the offender is a firm or corporation, the managing head and or owners thereof shall be liable to the penalty imposed herein. Any clinical laboratory operating without a valid license or whose license has been revoked, cancelled, shall be summarily closed upon order issued by the BHFS or CHD or his duly authorized representative. The BHFS or CHD may seek the assistance of the law enforcement agency to enforce the closure of any clinical laboratory. The closure order issued by the DOH shall not be rendered ineffective by any restraining order and injunction order issued by any court, tribunal, or agency or instrumentalist.
Section 10. Modification and Revocation License. A license may be revoked, suspended, or modified in full or in part for any material false statement by the applicant, or as shown by the record of inspection, or for a violation of or failure to comply with any of the terms and conditions and provisions of these rules and regulations. 2. No license shall be modified, suspended, or revoked unless prior notice has been made and the corresponding investigation conducted except in cases of willful or repeated violations hereof, or where public health interest or safety requires otherwise. Section 11, Repealing Clause. These rules and regulations shall supersede all other previous official issuances hereof. Section 12, Publication and List of Licensed Clinical Laboratories. A list of licensed clinical laboratories shall be published annually in a newspaper of general circulation. Section 13, Effectivity. These rules and regulations shall take effect 15 days after its publication in the official gazette or in a newspaper of general circulation.
The clinical laboratory shall be organized to provide effective and efficient laboratory services. As a head pathologist, we have technical standards and minimum requirements in our clinical laboratory. In our staffing, we headed one pathologist, and that's me. I was a graduate of Bachelor of Science in Medical Technology and attended 2 years General Training Foundation and 6 years of special training program in pathology. Aside from me, we're also headed some physician and medical technologists. Our physician is certified by the Philippine Board Pathology with 3 months of training on clinical laboratory medicine, quality control, and laboratory management. We are also employed a qualified, adequately trained personnel. We have employed 3 medical technologists, not just medical technologists, but registered medical technologists, that available at all times during hours of laboratory operations. As a secondary laboratory, it is measured as 20 square meters. Our laboratory is well ventilated, adequately lighted, clean, and safe. Our working space is sufficient to accommodate its activities and allow for smooth and coordinated flow. And we have also an adequate supply of water. Our clinical laboratory provided an adequate and appropriate glasswares, reagents, and supplies necessary to undertake the required services. Aside from it, we are also provided an adequate and sufficient disposal of waste following guidelines of the Department of Health. We have also a functional quality assurance program and a system of accurate recording to ensure quality results. Lastly, our laboratory and professional fees to be charged for laboratory examination are at prevailing rates.
Yes, definitely. This clinical laboratory, subdivided into different sections, such as the clinical chemistry section, microbiology section, hematology section, clinical microscopy, blood banking, immunology, and serology section.
And of course, we also have the section of histopathology and cytology and the specialized section of immunohistochemistry.
Clinical chemistry is a section intended for the testings of blood and other body fluids to quantify essential soluble chemicals including waste products useful for the diagnosis of certain diseases. Examples of tests performed in these sections are fasting blood sugar and glycosylated hemoglobin for the diagnosis of diabetes, triglycerides that can be used for the diagnosis of cardiovascular diseases, blood uric acid, blood urea nitrogens, and clinical enzymology. In terms of the number of tests performed in these sections is considered to be one of the busiest. In majority of tertiary level clinical laboratories, this sections is characterized as state-of-the-art fully automated facility.
Microbiologists study the microscope organism that cause infections, including viruses, bacteria, fungi, and algae. They focus on the identification and growth of this organism in order to understand their characteristics with the overall aim to prevent, diagnose, and treat infectious diseases. Microbiologists use observation skills to analyze samples and identify bacteria. They also use these skills when performing experiments as they need to be able to notice changes in the environment or materials over time. Bacteriologists study the growth and development and properties of bacteria. Mycobacteriology identifies Mycobacterium species with an emphasis on the detection of Mycobacterium tuberculosis for public health and surveillance purposes across the state. Mycologists study the properties of different kinds of fungi, and virologists study viruses that affect humans, animals, insects, bacteria, fungi, and plants in community, clinical, agricultural, and natural environment. Microbiologists try and understand how viruses, algae, fungi, and other microorganisms live, grow, and interact with their environment.
What is hematology? Hematology is the study of blood and blood disease. Hematology or hepatologists are highly trained healthcare providers who specialize the disease of the blood and the blood component. This include the blood and the bone marrow cell. Hematology function test. Common hematology test is the complete blood count or CBC, which include the white blood cells count or WBC, red blood cell or RB cell, and platelets count, hematocrit, and the red blood cell volume. The most common hematology test is the complete blood component or CPC. This test is often conducted during the routine exam and can detect anemia, clotting problem, and blood cancer, immune system disorder, and infection. Common ones include complete blood count. This test measures different parts of the blood, including red and white blood cell, platelets, and hemoglobin. Basic metabolic panel, blood test to check for heart disease, blood cutting test known as the Quotient panel. Hematology is the medical specialist that studies the blood cells, and another component its disorder or mutilation and the organ that are part of the production, such as the bone marrow and the spleen or the nodes, among others.
In the clinical microscopy, there are two major areas in this section of the laboratory. The first area is allotted to routine and other special examinations of urine, such as microscopic examination to determine color. transparency, specific gravity, and pH level, and microscopic examinations to detect presence of abnormal cells and or parasite, as well as to quantify red cells and WBC and other chemical found in urine. Examination of other body fluids is also performed in this area. The second area is assigned to the examination of stool or routine fecalysis. Detection and identification of parasitic worms and ova are the primary activities in this area. So, blood bank. Blood banking is the store of the blood or blood component. So, blood bank is a part of hospital laboratory where we store the blood and do proper testing of the blood to avoid the risk of transfusions of related problem. So, blood banking also collect and separate the test and store the blood until the patient need it. So if you have donated the blood before, you have been part of the blood banking process. This high volume, high quality blood testing machine is unique to the blood banking world, fully automated. It helps ensure the safety of the blood supply by testing donor samples from things like hepatitis B and C and HIV in 8 hours. It runs different blood tests of 1,000 donation without human intervention. Between each of these tests is sterilized every single probe in a wash solution. Another machine determines the blood types, of which there are 8. So they scan the donor collection bag and documents what products will produce from the blood. Overnight gravity causes the blood to separate into its 3 components, so we will worker and remix it, preparing it for machine preparation. She packs the blood in the bags. For the another component into what's called liner, she makes sure the liners are balanced and will put the rubber width inside when she need to the balancing the liners, keeps the centrifuge machine spinning properly at 4,000 RPM. It separates the blood into layers. She hook up the unit of separated blood to an automated extractor at once again match the unit with the donors. The extradator fills a bag with chest red blood cells behind the mixture of the blood platelets in the original container.
So, immunology and serology. So, immunology is a branch of medicine and biology that covers the medical study of the immune system in humans, animals, plants, and sapient species. Organ of the immune system. Organ and tissues of the immune system include the bone marrow, spleen, thymus, tonsil, mucous membrane, and skin. Granulocytes, macrophage, and T lymphocytes are examples of specialized cells. So why immunology is important? An immunological response to damage or pathogenic organism frequently includes aspect of inflammation. Inflammation has been described as an immunological response when there is a blood flow. As a simple example, individual inflammatory cells adhering to endothelial cells in vitro is an immunological response.
So serology is the scientific study of a serum and other body fluids. In practice, the term usually refers to a diagnostic identification of antibodies in the serum. Such as antibodies are typically formed in response to infection against a given microorganism against other foreign proteins. In response, for example, to a mismatch, blood transfusion, or to one's own body proteins in case of autoimmune disease. Serologic tests are blood tests that look for antibodies in your blood. They can involve a number of laboratory techniques. Different types of serologic tests are used to diagnose various disease conditions. Serologic tests have one thing in common. They all focus on protein made by your immune system. This vital body system helps you keep you healthy by destroying foreign invaders that can make you ill. Body produces antibodies in response to antigens. If testing shows no antibodies, it indicates you don't have an infection. Result that show there are no antibodies in the blood sample are normal. Abnormal test result antibodies in the blood sample often mean you've had an immune system response to an antigen from either current or past exposure to a disease or foreign protein. May also help the doctor to diagnose an autoimmune disorder by finding out if antibodies to normal or non-foreign protein or antigen are present in the blood. The certain types of antibodies can also mean that you're immune to one or more antigen. This means that future exposure to antigen won't result in illness. Serology can diagnose multiple illness including the brucellosis, amoebiasis, measles, rubella, HIV, syphilis, coronavirus, and fungal infection.
Tissue processing describes the step required to take an animal or human tissue from gestation to a state where it is completely impregnated with suitable histological wax and can be in a embedded pretty porous section cutting on the microtome. What is the importance of tissue processing? The importance of tissue processing is that most laboratory supervisors would emphasize to their staff the importance of tissue processing. It would like to stress that use of inappropriate processing schedule of the making fundamental mistake can result in production of tissue specimen that cannot be sectioned and therefore will not provide any useful microscopic information. Cytology, the branch of science that can study how cells work and grow. The medical specialists deal with the making diagnosis of disease and condition toward the examination. Cytology. Cytology is examination most of the performed body fluids such as blood, urine, cerebral spinal fluid, or material aspirated from the body.
Immunohistochemistry is the most common application for immunostaining. It involves the process of selectively identifying antigen proteins in cells of a tissue section by exploiting the principle of an antibody's binding specifically to antigens in biological tissues. Immunohistochemistry is a technique for identifying cellular or tissue antigens by means of antigen-antibody interactions. The site of antibody binding is identified either by direct labeling of the antibody or by use of a secondary labeling method. So how does immunohistochemistry staining work? Immunohistochemistry chemical staining is accomplished with antibodies that recognize the target antigen, since antibodies are highly specific. So the techniques comprises two phases: slide preparation stages involved for the reaction, number 2, interpretation and quantification of the obtained expression.
Molecular biology is the study of molecules within the cell, and biotechnology uses knowledge of how biological systems operate to produce useful products such as pharmaceuticals. One of the specialized sections in the laboratory is the molecular biology and biotechnology. Diagnostics using molecular biology and biotechnology are among the most interesting advancements in medical technology. DNA and RNA are recognized and sequenced primarily utilizing various enzymes and other reagents to find any pathological disorders or disease processes. The polymerase chain reaction is currently the most widely used method. This method is helpful for a variety of clinical approaches, including the screening of genetic indicators of disease and the detection of cancer and infectious diseases, and it has helped progress science and laboratory research.
Yes, we have a tasting cycle. In here, we have the 3 phases, which are the pre-analytic, post-analytic, and the analytic. In pre-analytic, these cycles includes the giving of the laboratory request receipts, the preparation of the patients, collections and processing of the samples that we are collected. While in analytic phase, we're dealing with the actual testing of the submitted sample, and in post-analytic, we transmit the result of the said test to the medical doctors for interpretation and the recommendation of the applications. Well, in here, we have a quality assurance. Well, this is refers to all tasks carried out by our lab staff to guarantee the validity of our test results. Well, it is planned out, systematic, done on a regular basis, and our outcomes are duly recorded and routinely examined. Well, there are 2: the internal quality assurance system, the ECAS, and the external quality assurance system are the 2 main components of quality assurance in our clinical laboratories. Daily tasks that are carried out to control are the elements or the variables that can have an impact on our test results are included in ECAS. To find deficiencies and then take corrective action, our outcomes are regularly reviewed and updated. Other hand, the ECAS is a system for evaluating our clinical laboratory's performance that is supported by designated outside organizations. The unknown samples with known test results is frequently sent to clinical laboratory for testing. The Department of Health has designated the national reference laboratories as the ECAS. The results are subsequently delivered to the outside facility where they are compared to the predetermined result. The effectiveness of the laboratory is assessed using this approach, and the participating clinical laboratory is issued a certificate of performance.